Hey, what's up? This is Matt from Exhumed. You are watching The Age of Metal, which I hope is at least 18.
Hey everyone, this is Stephanie with The Age of Metal. We're here tonight in Tampa, Florida at the Orpheum with Matt from Exhumed. So how are you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. So just talk about this tour that you're on right now.
We are just into day 5 of Tour with Dying Fetus. And of course, Abiotic and Waking the Cadaver. So far, it's been really good. All the shows have been awesome. And I've been really surprised. Like, we started in Delaware, and I was like, it's still like summer. I mean, Tampa, I expect to be hot, but everywhere else, it's still like summer, which is crazy because we were on tour in April and it was like still winter everywhere.
Yes.
It was like snow. It's cool. It's a cool bill because the first 2 bands are a little bit more like modern style, and then we're more old school, and then Dying Fetus is sort of in the middle. So it's a cool mix of like younger kids and older people or whatever, you know. And, you know, for us, it's cool. This is the first U.S. thing we've done since the new record, so
nice.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So you did mention that there are a lot of the younger bands. What do you feel about, I guess, the younger bands like Abiotic, Rivers of Nile that are on tour with you right now?
You know, for me, like, my musical taste is like the older I get, the more like reverse in time I go. I listen to more like Blue Oyster Cult or like Thin Lizzy or like Zeppelin or like Robin Trower or something like that. You know, and I still love like the death metal and thrash that I grew up with or whatever, but you know, I think it's cool just to see that the genre keeps evolving because the death metal of 20 years ago shouldn't sound like the death metal of today. And I would think it'd be weird if a 16-year-old kid today like wanted to hear the same records I did when I was 16, 20 years ago, like, you know, Terrorizer and like Carnage or whatever. So, I mean, I think it's like real healthy for the whole scene. You know, for me, like I said, I'm just like a dinosaur rock guy. Like, I'm into like UFO or whatever. But,
that's cool.
You know, but I think it's rad to see the energy and the infusion of just like new ideas and just new stuff going on. I mean, because if the genre just stagnated and like everybody still sounded like the first Unleashed album, there'd be like me and, you know, like 500 other like fat guys with patch jackets who are like, yeah, this rules.
Me too.
And then everybody else would be like, this is so fucking boring, you know. So I think it's real positive, you know.
Right, that's good. And you did mention earlier that this is the first U.S. tour in support of, I always have an issue with this album title, Necrocracy.
Yeah, Necrocracy.
Necrocracy, okay. I just want to make sure I got that right. It's the first U.S. tour in support of that. How has the reaction been so far?
It's been good. It seems like the kids already know the new songs and stuff, which is encouraging. It was kind of weird because we recorded last September and October, thinking that it was going to come out in May. So we did like an April like warm-up tour in the States, and then we did 3 months in Europe. But by the time those tours started, we knew that it had kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed. So we ended up doing like 4 months straight of touring with no record, which is really weird. Then we came home, the record came out, and we had like 6 weeks off. We never have 6 weeks off. And we're just like sitting around like, do-do-do. So,
watching TV.
Right, exactly. I was just watching my DVR the whole time. So it was, it's a little weird because I kind of feel like, you know, I'm not sure what the reaction is yet. We're just sort of finding out or whatever. But so far it seems really good, and, you know, people said nice things about the new record. That's encouraging, you know?
Yeah, of course. I noticed that with this new album, you have more of a melodic sound compared to your previous material. Was there any sort of reason for that or any inspirations particular you had?
I think the main thing is that, like, the last record, All Guts, No Glory, it's really not that much more melodic, but it's just so much faster throughout. Like, it's all like blast beat, Slayer beat, blast beat, Slayer beat, blast beat, something else. Whereas this one kind of sticks around in like slower tempos for a little bit longer than we normally have, and it sort of brings out the melody stuff. And like I said, I mean, we're all influenced by like Deep Purple and like Rainbow and UFO and more of like a rock and roll kind of sensibility or whatever. And I think that now that we're not playing a million miles an hour all the time, it sort of comes out a little bit more.
Right.
And people are like, all of a sudden, like, oh, you guys have melody. It's like, well, we actually have melody on most of our records, you know.
Okay.
I mean, it's still a death metal, and it's not like, you know,
of course.
Iron Maiden or whatever. But it's just sort of playing a little bit slower allows those elements to be heard. And I think because the last album was so fast all the time, we wanted to do something that was a little bit different because we felt really satisfied with it, so why repeat it? Whereas like if you're like, well, we tried to do it and failed, then we want to try it again. But we felt like we tried and succeeded, so we want to do something different, you know.
Right, and I definitely want to ask about, I guess, your more brutal sound. One thing I've always loved about you guys is that you guys you're always probably one of the most brutal bands I've ever heard, but your songs are all really catchy. How do you approach songwriting with that style?
I think the main difference between us and maybe a lot of other like death metal bands is that most of us listen to more like traditional heavy metal, like Accept or Merciful Fate, and then like our guitar player Bud, he's like a country guy, like old school country, and I listen to just all kinds of music, like across the board. I mean, whether it's like 80s pop or like really wimpy stuff like Beach House or M83 or just anything, you know. And I love 60s garage rock and fucking British Invasion stuff and whatever. So I just like music, and I think that our songs have more in common structurally, or the way that the songwriting is, with just music in general, whether it's like, you know, a rock song or a pop song or a dance song or R&B song or whatever. Not sonically, like we don't use any of those elements. It's all pure like death and thrash metal, but the way that we approach putting the songs together has more in common with like, you know, even like Hall & Oates or something than like, you know, what most brutal death metal bands do, which is just very linear, like this part, that part, then next. Come back to one of them, and then that's the song. And it's like, you know, I'm a very traditional kind of music lover, so it's like we use real traditional song structure, and I think it's one of the things that's kind of like kept us apart from everybody, which is good. I mean, we don't want to sound like everybody else, you know? Right,
definitely. So where did you come up with the Necrocracy album? I'm still having issues with that.
No, you kind of feel like you got peanut butter in your mouth and you're saying, yeah, in fact, actually, like when I wrote the lyrics, I was like, oh, this is great. And then I went to sing it in the studio for the first time. I was like, well, this is actually kind of hard to pronounce. I was reading a book called God Is Not Great by a guy who recently died named Christopher Hitchens, who's a really good, like, atheist. I mean, I guess you call him sort of like a pop philosopher. I don't know. And he was just writing about sort of different forms of government based on religion. And, you know, the whole book is very anti-religion. And when I came across the term necrocracy, I thought, oh, that's good. Like, I just, you know, I read and I listen to stuff or whatever, and I just, you know, jot notes down. I used to, like, have a crappy notepad. Now I just have my phone. And I was like, oh, this is good. I'm keeping this. And, you know, I'm not, like, a super political person, but, I mean, the new record kind of touches on a lot more of the sort of socio-political and economic stuff that's going on in America. And obviously, Exhumed has always been about like death and horror or whatever. So when we write about other subjects, we use all that imagery as like a metaphor or an allegory. And I just thought Necrocracy, rule by the dead. He was talking about a country where, I forget, maybe it's North Korea or whatever, where Kim Jong-il is like president forever, even though he's dead. But the way I thought of it is that, like, in America, we kind of live in a country where it's like by, of, and for the corporations at this point that are technically people, even though they don't like take a shit or anything like the normal people do. So I thought it wasn't that much of a stretch to kind of take that term and apply it to what I was going for with that. So
why have you been playing death metal for so long?
Too stupid to quit. I mean, I still like the music, and, you know, I still get fired up about writing new material, and like a big part of it now, like the lineup that we settled on after sort of doing the last record with more of a session lineup and then getting together a proper band lineup. I mean, I get excited to like play with the other guys in my band every day. Like we not only like do I think we play together well, but I think we really like each other. Like we have a lot of fun. You know, a lot of bands stand there and like scowl at people. We're always like smiling and like running around laughing, and we all like to party pretty heavily. And so we really have a good time. And since getting the band back together, we split up for almost 6 years or whatever. We've been able to, you know, kind of take advantage of that sort of momentum, and where financially, I mean, this is like my main source of income by far. So, you know, it's not that we play for money or whatever, but at the same time, you know, that's an incentive for us to get out and keep playing more and more shows and working. And the fact that we enjoy each other and we enjoy the music that we play, that makes it totally worthwhile and fun, you know?
Awesome. So. Yeah, definitely. So what do you see the metal scene like in the next 20 years?
You know, I just wonder what it's going to be like, because at a certain point, you know, like, you look at a lot of the really early bands, the formative bands, like, you know, your Black Sabbath and Deep Purple and Zeppelin and those kind of bands, and those guys are dying not of like cocaine overdoses and stuff like that. They're just like dying because they're just old. And we're getting to the point now where like metal has been around for such a long time that it's kind of just a thing like any other style of music. And in one way, I think that's helped it get a lot more acceptance in the last few years. I mean, I feel like it's so much stronger than it was 10 years ago in America, or certainly like 13 or 14 years ago. I don't know. I think it's always going to be there in some form. I mean, people, in 20 years, I mean, shit, I'm going to be like, my 50s, whatever. So, I mean, I don't even know if this would be a viable lifestyle option at that point. I mean, who knows if I can even physically do it then? I mean, but I mean, it's definitely going to continue on in some form. I mean, I do think that, the whole like rock and roll or metal renaissance or whatever that has kind of happened, it's part of sort of a dearth of like new ideas, what I mean? Because like when rock and metal started, there was nothing else like it. And it's the same thing that we see in movies and on TV or whatever. You watch TV, you see fucking Hawaii Five-0. It's like, come on, dude, you guys did this in the 60s. Like there's like a real lack of like innovation and like a real sort of cautiousness and a hyper awareness of what's come before. And so people are stuck in these cycles, and it helps sort of prolong the lifespan of whether it's a metal band or whether it's a television show concept or whether it's the Transformers movies series. There's just like a real like lack of balls in general from people that keeps things sort of like stagnantly running forward because they're just lucrative enough to survive. So, and one thing I think the most rock and roll thing that could happen would be something else will come along and like completely destroy like punk, metal, rock, and just be blown off the fucking map, and it'll be something totally new, the way that rock did to like big band music and shit like that. But I don't know. Who knows if that'll happen?
Who knows? I mean, I know in Japan that they have robots actually playing music, and it's insane. I have a feeling that would probably happen.
That's, I mean, especially the thing that I worry about, like with the technical death metal stuff, is that people are pushing themselves to be so perfect and to use so many, like whether it's excessive drum triggering or like excessive editing in Pro Tools, or playing a guitar like a fucking necklace and never moving on stage. Like I worry that people have this idea that somehow perfection is better. And when I listen to, you think about the rock albums that have sold the most, whether it's like Back in Black or Led Zeppelin 4 or whatever, throughout history, compared to today's standards, they're incredibly sloppy and loose. So I don't think that better playing equates better music.
Right.
I mean, it can, maybe, but not necessarily. So I think that it's a real narrow way of thinking that kind of pushes you to the point where, maybe it's better that robots do it because they never fuck up their sweep arpeggios, And I don't want to go to a show and watch robots. That's just me.
Right. I agree with that.
Crazy.
No, it's fine. I completely understand.
Unless it's like a Gwar show or a Ghoul show.
That would
it's
be
a giant
cool.
robot that comes out and kills people, then yes.
Then that's pretty brutal.
Right. Then I come to see what
Or like Iron Maiden, Eddie as a robot.
Absolutely. Or like the Turbo Tour where that giant robot eats Rob Halford. That's like really cool. That's
cool. See, I think that should come back.
I
think
yes. Like we need hydraulics. I mean, if we had a budget, fuck, it'd be insane. But
that would be pretty cool.
We're
That's metal for you.
Exactly.
So we were getting into a really interesting conversation before the interview about porn star names.
Yes.
And would you like to share all your band's porn star names?
I'm going to share 3 out of 4 of ours because I think they're all excellent. Using the tried and true first pet street you grew up on. Our drummer Mike, his name is Bandit Johnson, which anybody would be proud to be called Bandit Johnson.
Oh, yes.
Mine, I think, is the second best. I think Mike's the bronze medalist. Mine is Pokey Coozer. I mean, Pokey. That just says it all, right? And then number 1 is our guitar player Bud, and his name would be Marshmallow Costello.
I love that name.
And it rhymes. It's just like, it's nothing better.
It falls off the tongue. Like,
right.
Oh, it's just Marshmallow Costello, doing some girl in the butt, That's kind of how.
Exactly. And he sounds harmless because he's marshmallow. So sure, put it in the butt, Marshmallow. It's not going to hurt.
I just think the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yeah, exactly. And he's such a sweet guy, too. So.
Well, then that just makes it even better.
Exactly. He's my little marshmallow.
He's the marshmallow of the band. Every band has that marshmallow.
Yeah, we have a bunch of stupid nicknames. We had a period, we were in Europe for like 3 months, so we got really bored. Then we started like, I'm trying to remember, I think my name was Dumpling. Rob's was Apricot. And Buzz was Pumpkin. Mike didn't like that. He didn't find that amusing. But we started, and we would meet people at shows, and we would start giving them random names like Cream Puff. They're like, oh yeah, hi, my name is Jens. It's like, all right, Cream Puff, nice to meet you. So yeah, we try to amuse ourselves on tour, you know.
That is pretty funny. So did those names only stay for that tour, or did they
kind of faded. They sort of faded out.
That's a shame,
I
because
agree.
it would be interesting me introducing you as Cream Puff for the interview.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Okay.
Hi, this is Dumplin from Exhumed. Great to be here.
Okay, so what do you guys have going on next after this tour?
We have a short run in December, West Coast dates with Iron Reagan. We are thinking about adding some dates coming out east. That's just still in the works. And then we have several things that are in the sort of planning stages for next year. I can't talk about them because if they were
secret.
well, if they were solid, it'd be like I would be totally blowing the press release, and I've already done that a couple of tours and got yelled at. And because they're not solid, if I say them and then they don't happen, then I look like a real jackass.
Right,
So,
understandable.
but you know, for us, the record is still like pretty unpromoted and pretty new, and we want to get out and just like play as many shows as we can, you know, just like we did for the last one. So pretty straightforward plan, like put out a record, tour like crazy people, and then repeat, you know.
Yep, that's the life of the musician, of the death metal musician. All right, everybody. So that was Matt from Exhumed. Like he was saying, they are doing a lot of touring coming up. They have a lot more coming up for them. So definitely keep up on that and stay metal.